All right, welcome to the Sweet Talk. Today is Monday, December 28th, 2020. I am your host, Kim Matina. I am a technology teacher, a Google certified trainer and educator. And today I am so honored. Honored is an understatement, but I'm so honored to have on my show today Mr. Joe Pizzo. He's another fellow educator from New Jersey, but most importantly, he brings to the table 47 years of education experience. He is an AMLE National Educator of the Year for 2020. The list goes on and on. I have goosebumps. I would like to welcome you to this show, Joe. Thank you for being on.
Kim, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Your name is stellar in the community, on Twitter, on podcasts. Folks know you and they respect you.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot from you. I really appreciate you being on. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know we were talking a little bit before we went live. You're the AMLE National Educator of the Year. I know you're a podcaster. You're actually from Hackettstown, New Jersey.
Well, I teach in
right?
Centenary University, which is in Hackettstown.
Okay. So like what exit is that off the Parkway? I know it's far up there.
That one's not off the Parkway. It's actually off Route 80.
Oh.
And when I go up Schoolies Mountain. So I go kind of the back way.
Okay. So you're far.
A ways, yeah.
Yeah, you're far. I'm down south, so
Right.
exit 50 off the Parkway. But so tell us about yourself. I'm so excited to have you on. I know I want to like really dive into our topic. So tell us about yourself. Tell the audience about you, because this is going worldwide. So people don't know who Joe Pizzo is.
I'll tell you, I had no idea as a kid that I wanted to teach. And I think that shocks a lot of people, because I'm the guy who comes in the morning and is leaving 7:30 from my classroom. But I really had no idea that this is what I wanted to do. And I thought, well, maybe I'll play center field for the Yankees. Mickey Mantle will retire, I'll take over. This will be great. I wasn't healthy enough to do that. I didn't have the athletic talent. And so I thought, well, maybe I can announce. Maybe that would be something. But I still wasn't sure. And in college, I remember going in and not declaring a major, just saying that, I was liberal arts and I would decide. So partway through the first semester, I declared for teaching, and I said, I have to put something down. So I'll put teaching down. And I was in a math class. Before class started, there were two guys sitting in the back of the room. And one guy says to the other, "Did you get the problems last night?" "No, I had no idea how to do them." "Did you get them?" "No, I didn't get no. And they're going back and forth. And I thought, wait a minute, I knew how to do those. Those weren't that tough. So being a shy person, I would almost never do this. But for some reason, I got up, I walked over, I said, "I hear you guys are having some problems with the math assignment. Do you want some help?" "Oh, sure, we'd love that." "Okay." And I explained how I did the problems, and they kind of looked at me and said, "Oh, we understand. Thank you."
And that was it.
Yeah, that was the kickoff. I sat back down and said, "Well, that was pretty good, actually."
Isn't that funny how something that you wouldn't normally, like you would just take for granted, and that just kind of sparked something in you that gave you your path and direction. Like that to me it was meant to be, so that's what a wonderful story. And so here you are 47 years later.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what keeps you going. Like what keeps you going every day to come to school to teach your students? What's the secret?
I don't know that it's a secret. I think I was raised extraordinarily well by my parents. The values that they gave me, the support they showed me, the patience they had with me while I was growing up. I was not the healthiest kid in the world, so they did every single thing that was humanly possible to make sure that I was taken care of. I had an advantage. and that I would believe that I could be a success. And the values that they instilled in me are the ones I carry to this day.
Wow, that's great.
I can tell you, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I can tell you the impact they had was tremendous, because we were talking before the show, and I mentioned how I had heard about being selected as the AMLE Educator of the Year. And I had returned a phone call that I thought was asking me to read more proposals for workshops, because I do that for AMLE. And when the woman, Stephanie Auditor, who's the CEO of AMLE, said to me, "You've been selected as Educator of the Year for 2020. I said, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. It's difficult to get me at a loss for words, but you've just accomplished that." And I thought about it and said to myself, you really should be grateful to a couple people. And not soon after that day, when the weather was okay and it wasn't muddy, I went up to the cemetery and I visited the grave where my parents are buried. And we have a variety of family members there. And I went to every one of the graves and I said, thank you. I went to my sister's grave, said, thank you. There's also a gentleman who, when I was a kid, through high school, used to cut my hair. He was a barber. And I remember he came to my dad's hospital bed and cut my dad's hair at the hospital. And we said, well, Frank, what do we owe you? He said, you don't owe me anything. He said, your dad was always such a kind man and was always so helpful to everybody. He says, no, I did this out of respect for your dad.
Oh, wow.
And I never forgot that. The gentleman who was my mentor at the middle school, he's Dr. Joe Burns. He's retired now, but he always dealt with every single youngster, every single student as somebody who was special. He saw the good in everybody. And it was like my dad. They were the same people, just in different bodies. And I would get all this encouragement. I could mess up the worst you'd ever seen. And he'd say, all right, how about if the next class we try something this way?
Yeah.
Rather than, what are you doing? What are you, crazy? Yeah. He was the social studies teacher and I was the language arts teacher. And I learned so much about writing from him because we did our writing through the social studies at the time. And we would open the wall between our classrooms. We had a core of kids. It was tremendous. The parents in the community where I work have never let someone in need not realize that there's somebody there to help them. They are always willing to lend a hand, always willing to reach out to help somebody. And I've seen that on numerous occasions. My dad was hospitalized many times. My mom was hospitalized many times. And there were prayer groups in the town that would be praying for my parents. There were people saying, do you need something? Kids making cards for my parents.
But that goes to show you, though, like that was the person that you are. And sometimes, I don't know, like sometimes you don't realize all that until something happens, and then everybody reaches out to you in their own way. And then you really feel like the hard work that I've done for so many years really was truly appreciated. Like you don't know that until later on, especially in education. Like you don't students and teachers, students and parents sometimes don't realize, and they don't show you that appreciation until later on, and when the kids get older, or maybe when they get a job, or when the kid comes back to you and visits you, or you don't realize that. So for you to be that type of role model in your community, in your school community, and to get all of that positive vibes, I want to say, and love from everyone, like that goes to show you what kind of person you were each and every day, and the impact that you made on your school community. Like, that to me is the person who you are, and that's priceless, and that's a connection that you made with the students, and you still do, because you're
Right.
still teaching. I mean, you're not
Yeah.
retired.
Mhm.
So I mean the things that you've accomplished, all of the awards that you've accomplished and received, and it's just amazing. I know you teach integrated language arts and seventh grade, and you teach at the university, and you have a podcast called Spot of Poetry, right? Isn't that what it's called?
Yes.
Spot of Poetry for your class. And sorry, I'm getting a little teary-eyed here. But I'm just really honored to have you on. We have a common friend, and my friend Bruce is always tagging you and tagging myself in his tweets, and and I get a chance to read it. It's just amazing on some of the blog posts that you write. I just taken back by it. So I appreciate all of the things that you're doing for the education community, and I hope that other educators can look up and learn from you. And I appreciate that. So thanks, Joe.
One of the things I always try to do is put the center stage for the students.
Yeah,
They're the ones who belong on the center stage.
this is true. This is true. I mean,
When we-
especially nowadays, right? With with the pandemic
oh yeah.
and everything. So I know, and this is one of the techniques that I've been trying to push out to teachers in my school building, is provide student choice, especially during, remote learning. And I know that you're going to be speaking about that. So how are you implementing that technology or technique in your class with your students, and what advice would you give to teachers to start using student choice?
My first bit of advice would be something that I tell student teachers: take it slow, do one thing at a time, do it well, then move on to the second thing.
Keep it simple, right?
Yeah, don't try to pull in everything at once, because you'll be so overwhelmed you won't know how to deal with the things that you're trying to deal with. And even the things that you can usually handle, you now won't be able to, because you'll be overwhelmed. We start out every year with a short story called Seventh Grade, because I teach seventh grade. And the story is by Gary Soto. Gary Soto was a migrant worker in California. His whole family would pick grapes in the summer and lettuce, and then they would go to school. They had to work to earn enough money to buy their books, to buy their supplies, to buy their clothes. And the characters in the story are wonderful, because Gary Soto is basically the main character. And this main character is a guy who is the typical seventh grade boy trying to impress the seventh grade girl and putting his foot in his mouth every single time he tries. And I tell the kids, I say, look, we've all been there. All the seventh grade boys have been there at one time or another. And if you haven't, you will be. I have too. You try to say something and the wrong thing comes out, or something that's not even there comes out. And people are looking at you thinking, what's wrong with you? And all it is that you got nervous. So you have to overcome those nerves. We would write about the first day of school, and I made a loose formula for the kids to follow. And I would say, fill it in with the details of your first day, when you woke up, when you got ready, whatever. And we put them on Google Docs. We would do sharings. This year, I said, I'm not doing that, because this year isn't like any other year. We opened last year in a normal way. we left our school on March 12th, and everyone said, well, see you in a week or two.
Yeah. Everybody thought it was short term.
Yeah, that didn't happen till the end of August. And now we took the 3 days before the December break as snow days, because we're hoping that somewhere down the road we can have more in-person teaching rather than remote teaching. And we are out of the building until the day after Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah, same with us.
Yeah, and it's all in hopes that some of this starts to clear up. But this year, we didn't do the first day of school poem. I said, you're going to write about starting off the school year, but you're going to take a different approach. Some of you started it off at home. Some of you started it off here in school with us because we were hybrid to start out. So write about what that was like. Say how you rode the bus, didn't ride the bus. If you rode the bus, how it was different from what it was before. If you were home, how was that different?
And did you find them to be like hooked onto that because they're right in the middle of it and experiencing it, right? Right. I mean, I can't imagine them not wanting to share their thoughts.
Then they wrote about what kinds of challenges are you facing? What are the things that when you're here in school, when you're home, are different? Because some kids are not hybrid. They're completely at home. There are friends they don't see. There are lockers they can't use. There are lunches that are eaten in homerooms. And it's just such a almost a disenfranchisement. But for safety reasons, there's no other alternative or option. The third part of the poem, I said, tell me what you're going to look forward to. What's going to come together that just overwhelms you and makes you say, wow, how terrific is that? And the poems were powerful.
I read your blog post and you had posted, you had typed up some of the poems and I was shocked. Like it was really a great perspective to hear from the students and what they feel, because we're all worried about our own little bubble to a degree. You know what I mean? As a mother, as a father, you know, as a husband, as a wife, you know, you tend to wrap yourself up in your own little world, and then you worry about, you know, your job. But, you know, that blog post that you posted, that was really powerful. Like it really, you should put that in the show notes and share that, because I think it's important, because it definitely showcased the students' perspective of what they're feeling. And then when you read it, you're like, yeah, like all those little things that you mentioned. You can't switch classes. You can't eat in the lunchroom. You can't go to your locker. You don't have lockers this year. Like it's
they're all closed.
All those little things that we took for granted, like, are gone, you know? So that to me was a powerful assignment that you did with the kids. And how, like, so when we incorporate student choice, what, you know, like, so what were some of the things that you offered them to complete the assignment? Was it all typed?
We pretty much, since this was a first assignment, we stayed with Google Docs.
Okay.
But there are times where I'll give an assignment and I'll say, you can do this as a poem. You can do this as a short story. You can do this as an essay. You can do it as a letter. You can do it as a poster. You can make a short video. My approach teaching language arts is that just about everything you do is composition. And I don't do a formal genius hour, but I have extra credit opportunities. And the kids will constantly come up to me and say, well, what can I do? Do I have to do this? Do I have to do that? And I say, what do you like to do? If you had time and you could do anything, what would you want to do? Well, I want to play video games. Okay. Why don't you write a review of a video game? You can tell me what the video game features or doesn't feature, should have or doesn't have, needs to be aware of, what a player can do to win at that game. I had a student at Union County College. I taught freshman comp there for 20 years. And he loved video games. That's all he wanted to do was video games. He would buy the games, go into his room, lock the door, and play the game until he solved it. So it could be hours, it could be maybe a day or so. And then he had a website, and he would put up his little blog on the website, rating the game, telling you, the strategies and whatever. So I said, okay, we have 5 essays to do in this class. You like video games. Maybe that's your choice. So what you're going to do is, our first essay was a personal narrative. Write about an experience with one of those games. We had comparison contrast. Take 2 games and compare them and contrast them. Research. Talk about the research that's out there for video games and what they can and can't do, and the potential harm and the potential benefit. I said, take all 5 papers and do that.
And he was all in, right?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
And he got an A. He earned the A. It wasn't a gimme.
Yeah.
Because his writing improved, his focus improved. He was there.
Well, when the students have some type of interest in the topic, they go for it. They're engaged in it. They take ownership of it. And they want to show what they know. So that was just an example of letting the students, pick their topic and let them write about it. And I also love that something that you mentioned before too is, about writing. Like I'm not, my mindset is not an ELA. I'm more of a, STEM technology person. So for me, writing doesn't come naturally, I guess, or easy for me. I have to actually some people, it takes a little bit more effort, and that's kind of me. So, for you had just mentioned, write a poem, write a personal narrative, write a letter, like different formats of writing instead of writing your traditional 5-paragraph essay. And I think that is a choice that students would embrace as well, because that got my attention when you said that, like, hey, if I had a choice to write a letter rather than a 5-paragraph essay, I think I would have appreciated it a little bit more while I was in school. I didn't have that. So I think that makes a big difference when you're presenting, that concept to the kids.
Take something like Canva, an online poster, work with that. Do a Google slide.
Yeah.
Work with that. There's just so many things that you can do. I've done an activity where I've had the kids, I did this with my college students too, and my college students couldn't believe that I actually let them do this. I said, we're reading a short story. What I want you to do is pick out 1, 2, 3, depending on what time of year it was and how much time we had, songs. Play an excerpt of the song that you think relates directly to what we're reading, and then make the connection. Tell me how the two are connected. So they get to play their music. They get to hear different kinds of music. And finally, they get to see that disciplines don't have walls.
Yeah. Yeah. You take down the walls. Yeah, definitely.
And that is so important.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think that's so important, because why are we limiting them? Right? We shouldn't be limiting them. You have to open their mind to the choices and the possibilities. Like if their focus is video games, you don't want to lose the child. You want to hook them in and let them showcase what he knows through that topic. I think even still, like when you go into school in different classes, like, some teachers use music as like a reward system for some students. So even like you just said, try to find like a song that relates to that theme of the story or that particular era or something like that. Then you make that connection. I think that's just another choice, that you can give to the students, because
It's
everybody learns differently, right? I mean,
oh gosh,
we're
yeah.
not all plugged the same. We're all different. We think differently. We learn we learn differently. We do things differently, and that goes for the students too. So if you present the information to them and let them, sometimes they need a little help, right? To figure out like what they want to do or their choice. But once they get going, they're pretty much on their own.
Every year we do The Giver. And The Giver is all about the absence of color, and color comes to the fore at the end. And so when we do The Giver, we write a color poem. And I give them the example of a color poem, and I'll use different things. Sometimes I'll use a song about color. And then I'll say, choose one or more colors and let's write about them. Make these colors seen in your poem. Connect them to things. Make them come alive. And I remember this one young man, Michael, sitting in the back of the room, looking frustrated and shaking his head, raising his hand and saying, "May I ask you a question?" I said, "Yeah, come on up." So he comes up to my computer and he says, "I'm not feeling it, man. I'm just not feeling it." Okay, what's the problem? "I'm not feeling it." All right, I got that part. Talk to me. He says, "I'm trying to write this poem and I'm not feeling it." All right, I'm a poet. I write a little poetry. So let's talk. What's going on? Well, I wrote about red. Yeah. I'm writing about white. Okay. But I'm not feeling it, man. Well, what would you like to do? I want to write about the American flag, red, white, and blue. Okay. If that's what your passion is, go for it. I'm not going to tell you which colors to choose and where to write them and what to do, but I will tell you that you should hold on to what you've written, because if this new direction ends up not paying off for you, you'll have nothing.
Right,
and
right.
From experience, to keep what you have and don't throw it away, because you may have to come back to it.
Yeah.
Or there may be a phrase that you want, and you'd like to go back and get that phrase, but now it's gone. Okay. So he goes back and he's writing away. And I walked back after a while and I looked at what he was writing and I said, "Oh my gosh, this is incredible. Wow."
Yeah.
He finishes the poem overnight, brings it in the next day. And I hadn't seen anything like this in a long time. Kid's like 12 years old.
Wow.
And we did it as a screencast, so they could have their voice over the top of the text. And I'm listening to this saying, this is incredible. The description in here. I showed it to my mom. She wouldn't believe that a student could write this.
Really? Oh my goodness.
He showed it to his mom. She didn't believe that he wrote it. She told me that. She said, "I couldn't believe he wrote that." I said, "Believe me, he did. I was there with him when he did." So I started to reach out to anybody I knew connected with the military. I even wrote to recruitment offices where they would say, "May we contact you for possible enrollment?" "Sure, no problem." May not make the age requirement, but yeah, you can contact me. Sure. And I got a couple answers back, tell your student nice job, encourage your student, whatever. It wasn't enough. It's the end of the school year. Everybody's got their rooms cleaned out. Mine hasn't been touched. I'm there to 7:30 hammering these different emails, looking up email addresses. I got an answer from the U.S. Department of Ed complimenting Michael on his poem. And I thought, wow, that was pretty good. Then I get another one that comes in, and I'm thinking, okay, this has got to be one of these 9,000, thank you, this is really nice emails, or, this is good, encourage your student. And I open it up, and it says, Dear Mr. Pizzo, we really like your student's poem. Would you please ask him if he would consider having this published on our website? And would you please write a blog explaining how this lesson all came about? It's the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
Oh my gosh.
And I looked at that and went, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. So I see Michael the next day. I had hammered an email out to him and his mom. And I said, you got to go through with this, man. This is amazing. I'll write the blog, no problem.
Yeah, yeah.
You go ahead and you get the forms and things filled out, and we'll get this moving. So they asked me for a picture. I said, Michael, you wrote about the American flag. This is the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. We're finding a flag.
In the school, you have so many. That shouldn't have been an issue.
So we went, and there was a flagpole up on the stage, and it's fairly high. I said, I don't care if it's fairly high. We're standing next to that flagpole. That's the flag. We've got to be there. So we took that picture. In fact, the picture is up on our school website, kind of acknowledging the fact that I got the AMLE award. And that's one of the pictures they put up.
Oh, wow.
And I'm overjoyed because I'm with a student, and that's really the kinds of pictures I like to take. So Michael reaches out to me, and he says, did they put it up yet? They put it? No, not yet. They put it? Not yet. July 4th, 2016, on the front home page of the U.S. Office of Veterans Affairs website, and it's still in their archive. There's his poem.
Wow.
And you could play it. So,
I'm going to have to go check it out.
And I got a contact from the NEA Foundation. I had gotten a grant from them years prior for cross-curricular writing. And so they said to me, well, we're checking to see if you mind being part of a poster project that we're doing to publicize our winners. Go ahead. No problem. And by the way, do you have anything exciting going on in your classroom? Tell us. Well, sure. I had this poem.
Yeah.
Well, send us what you have. Okay. So I sent them Michael's poem, and I sent them the connection for the blog. Do you have any more of these? Yeah, I have some more. Could you rewrite the blog a little bit? Okay. So I rewrote the blog. And on the NEA Foundation, in their archives, it first started out on the homepage is Michael's poem, a revised version of the blog, and 3 other students' poems.
Wow.
And I had sent them even more, but that's all it would take.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
At that point,
the kids must have been so fulfilled, happy, just like being recognized. Like they probably had no idea that they were even going to be, in the running for anything when you first started out. You just given them a choice to write about something that they connected with, and then here it turned into something totally unexpected. What a surprise. They must have been so shocked.
And the real kicker is NCTE reached out to me when they saw, and they said, can you do a blog for us? Okay. So I did another blog, and I had no idea the length they were looking for. So mine was about 1,200 words. Theirs usually went 5 to 6. So they said, I'll tell you what, we're just going to split it into 2. There'll be one about the project and one about Michael's involvement with the project. Fine, no problem. So they ran 2 pieces on their website.
And that was when, 2016, you said?
2016. And right near, I think NCTEs went up closer to the end of 2016.
Okay.
But on the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs website, it was the July 4th, 2016, and it's in the archive because I check every once in a while. Okay. And on the NEA Foundation website, it's in their archive as well.
Okay. Yeah, I want to definitely check it out. I just think it's it's so important. And I think, I don't know, like I'm in a whole different realm, but I really do believe, student choice is a must, and especially during the times that we are facing right now that we're in, student choice is even more important. And I think it does allow for that creativity, and you know they can think out of the box a little bit, not 20% project or anything, but keeping them focused on the topic or the goal, the learning goal, and then giving them a choice, not necessarily like using technology, but choices in how they want to present the information, writing, the different styles of writing, like you were saying. And it's, nowadays I just find, is that even going on anymore? I don't know. I know before the pandemic it was challenging because that flexibility is diminishing, you know, little by little every year. And this year, I'm not sure if that is completely gone. I think people are given students choice. I just don't know if it's in that way that you're presenting it. They may be giving them a choice to use different, maybe technology, but to complete the assignment. I don't know. What do you think about that? I mean, I'm not teaching this year, so for me, like my mindset is more of a tech support right now. And I'm just kind of focused on putting out the fires and helping and supporting this year. But what is your take on that? Do you find that people in your school are given the choices to the students? And if they are, how? Like, because it's so important, in my opinion. It's a piece of the puzzle that needs to be there.
We're a school to watch. And as a school to watch, we're recognized as one of the, I think it's 9 or 10 schools in New Jersey, middle schools in New Jersey, that are considered to be outstanding. We have been awarded and redesignated 3 times.
Wow.
I am extremely proud of that. I was part of the committee that started that out. Dr. Ken Pasek and I go down to Washington, D.C. We used to go with Bob Mullen all the time before he retired. He was our principal. And we would do presentations. And folks got to know us. We would walk in and they'd go, "Oh, Black River. Oh, Chester's here." It's amazing because here these folks are from like all over the United States.
Yeah.
And we're proud of what we do. We've tried to stay on the cutting edge. I know that Dr. Pasek, Ken, has revamped his entire band program because they can't do a lot of the in-person when you have some kids there, some kids home, some kids there sometimes, home sometimes. And he's adjusted and adapted and made all these changes possible. And I'm overwhelmed to watch what he does. He does miracles with those kids. We just completed a project in my class right before the break, and I had the kids do a flip grid. And I said, I'm going to post up for you on Classroom something that I did myself. I did a thank you to healthcare workers, and I posted it on YouTube back in May of this past academic year. And it pretty much just thanked the healthcare workers for putting themselves on the line and taking care of folks who would necessarily not be taken care of if it weren't for them. And I kept it to about 37 seconds. I said, if I were doing this professionally, it would be 30 seconds. I didn't have to worry because it's not going to get played on a radio station. So I can go to 37. It's fine. I said, for you, I want a 60-second piece. And in that 60-second piece, I want you to find somebody to say thank you to. It doesn't matter if they're family or not. One youngster wrote that he doesn't know a healthcare worker personally. but he still wants to reach out and thank all of them for all that they've done. Another thanked a postal worker. Another thanked an aunt who works as a care provider. And to see the sincerity. Again, I took something from before and adjusted it.
Yeah.
There's a piece called Thank You by Alex Haley. And in 1983, Alex Haley had this piece printed about his experience on the USS Mersum as a member of the galley. It was Thanksgiving Day and they had served everyone. So he was walking on deck wondering about, Thanksgiving, what does that mean? Giving thanks. And he thought, we should give thanks to people. And there were 5 people in his life he wanted to give thanks to, but 2 had passed away. So he said, I've got to give thanks to these 3 people. One was his dad, the Reverend Simon A. Haley, who was a professor at the Arkansas Normal School, which is, as you may know, normal school was a 2-year school for teachers back then because they didn't think that teachers had to be that educated to do this job. And that just, that floors me.
Yeah.
The phrase, those that can do, those that can't teach, is not the phrase. There was a little known hack. I think Aristotle was his name, came from some country or other. And he actually said, those that can do, those that understand, teach. That was
that's powerful.
Yeah,
big difference. Yeah.
So he writes to his dad. He writes to his elementary school principal, who was also his minister. And he writes to his grandma. And he's amazed that he gets letters back thanking him for thanking them. And so he made a commitment on every piece of stationery that he had from that day forward. He had the phrase, find the good and praise it, embossed on every single one of them.
Wow.
And so I usually do that for Thanksgiving. And I tell the kids, make sure that you give thanks to somebody and let's put a Thanksgiving type project together, whether it's a written piece, whether it's an artistic piece, whatever it is. And this year I said, no, it's the pandemic. So let's thank somebody for what they've done for us over the past year.
Yeah.
And so it became a Flipgrid.
Okay. So you used Flipgrid.
And the shy kids just kind of block out their faces because they don't want anybody seeing their face. Okay, fine.
But they said something, right? Like and that's
Yeah.
important. That's
It
the
is.
part that's important.
It is. And at 12 years old, you can't expect them to get up there and give you the top 40 radio kind of voice. That's not what we're looking for.
No. I'll tell
go
the
ahead
kids
and
the
read
same
it. It's
thing.
fun.
Just block off the camera and just say what you want to say, because it's great that you give the kids a voice, but some are camera shy, and that's just the way it is. So you have to respect that and give them an alternative.
My motivation for wanting to teach speech, and I taught it when we had it as a separate course, and I try to work it into my classes as much as I can. I was the shyest kid in the world. I still feel shy. And you don't overcome it. You just learn how to deal with it better.
Yeah.
If
with anything though, Joe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, really, right? I mean, I don't know, like some things where I'm just not good at, or I excel in some things and you try to improve on, but you make adjustments and you just learn to cope with it better. And you learn like different ways to learn to do better with it, right? I mean, I think that's just in life.
When I taught public speaking, the first speech I would assign was not an introductory speech. I said, no, that's formula.
Yeah.
What I did is I had a student teacher at the time who brought in lyrics from Stone Temple Pilots song, Vaseline, Flies in the Vaseline We Are. And it was just way off the wall. And I thought, this is good because this has no real link to anything. And I said to the kids, what you're going to do is you're going to become a character. And if you're nervous, then have somebody else become a second character up there with you. Go up. And if you are the Harvard professor, then give a presentation as a Harvard professor would give it on anything.
Play the role, right?
Yeah. Greet your class, do whatever, but work the lyrics in. Come up as a professional wrestler. Come up as an athlete. Come up as a spoiled brat. Come up as whatever is reasonable that you wish to do, and come in costume. You've got to dress up. You also have to have introductory music. So you have to give me your music ahead of time. You may have to give me a link if it's hard to find, because I'll play that as you walk in, and then I'll play it as you walk out. And so,
and how are they? I can't imagine. I can't imagine them. Yeah, I was going to say, I can't imagine them not, being engaged at all.
That was some of the wildest stuff we did. They loved it. And the second speech then was the introduction.
Yeah.
Because now you're comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You broke the ice. Really?
If you're not comfortable up there, anytime during the course, I said, bring somebody up to stand up there with you.
And that was your speaking class?
I did a public speaking class. I wrote the curriculum and did public speaking for a few years.
Wow.
Yeah. We had that as an option. I loved it. I hated to lose that.
Well, I remember taking public speaking, and I was standing in front of the class behind the podium and just kind of like saying what I remembered or memorized. Nothing. I didn't have any of those options. And I think maybe if I did, I think that I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. Again, it's how you present it to them and give them the choice. I think it's so important.
That's such a key that, and I think this is where sometimes people go wrong. They hear choice and they think, okay, I've got to give you every choice in the world, every medium that's out there. No, you don't.
Keep it simple, right? Like you said in the beginning, keep it simple.
Yeah. Right? And you can put it within one medium with options to go out. I tell the kids, when I was in college, the greatest thing, I went to what was then Trenton State College, is now TCNJ, the College of New Jersey. Loved it. Still one of the greatest schools in the United States. And I'm a huge proponent of that campus. And I tell the kids that those professors understood me, because I never thought inside the box. I didn't know there was a box. So they would assign something, and if it was an assignment to compare two characters, well, maybe I put the characters on trial. Mm-hmm. Maybe I had them sitting at dinner and meeting and having a discussion about something. But it was always with a twist.
Yeah.
And I said it got to the point where at the end of the class, after the assignment was given, I would start to get up and professors would know what I was going to do, and they would go, "You're good.
You're good."
They knew I would put in probably 3 or 4 times the amount of work than anybody else would, but I was doing what I love to do.
And then but that's how you teach your class, right? With a twist. Yeah. So, I mean, like you took what you learned and you made it your own, and you're still doing it. And I think that's important, because that's where the creativity and the choice come into play, and once you do that, they are getting, they hook, they fully engage themselves into the assignment. And like you said, like, you'd be surprised and amazed what they complete when they have ownership. I'm just so glad that you shared all of that information, because I think it's so important for even, like, I mean, really, like, we're all starting off day one all over again, right? It doesn't matter how many years you're teaching, I'm teaching, whoever, we're all day one rookies, right? With the pandemic. But I just think it's so inspirational to hear everything that you've discussed and shared on the show for younger teachers to keep in mind, that hopefully when we go back into a normal state in person, back in the day, that we can keep those thoughts in our minds and try to implement some of those ideas, because I think when we go back, it'll probably be even more important that we do it, because the students will need a little bit more nurturing and, share their experience or, their feelings with us too. So it might even be more powerful after we get back.
Kim, if I may add one thing, we have a legacy in Chester. Anyone who goes to Chubb Park, there is a garden that was built, and my students designed it and built it. It's in memory of Officer Greg John Froner. He was a Port Authority patrolman who was killed during 9/11. He was lost while saving lives in the towers. And 7 of my students got together and met every Thursday with me at lunch from January through June to design a garden. One of my students kind of spearheaded it. She was a real outside the box thinker. And she had she had a landscaper donate his time and his materials and his men's time to put this whole thing together. There were over 200 people on a rainy Saturday morning when we dedicated the garden. They wanted to do it on a Sunday, but Sunday was Father's Day and it would just be too painful and people had too many commitments. So we did it the Saturday before. And when a rededication was done this past year, Mrs. Froner, the widow, was able to secure one of the trees that are called the Freedom Trees. They were taken from the trees that remained. They were cultivated from those. And so that was planted. This young lady, Yana, who kind of spearheaded everything, flew back from Denver to be there for that ceremony.
Yeah.
And that says a whole lot about the students that I teach. They have a lot of heart.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Again, like I'm just so thankful that you were on sharing your experience with the viewers, and I've learned so much from you, especially like I've been trying to keep repeating like how much it's so important to give the kids choice, and again, like keep things simple, start off slow and simple, and then move on to the next step. But like you said in the beginning, don't try to take it all in at once. It's too overwhelming, and you don't want to do that. So keep it simple, give the students choice. And again, it doesn't have to be technology. It can be in the style of your assignment, because sometimes technology isn't always the answer, and you can still complete things without it. Sometimes doing it on pencil and paper is the best way as well. So, but giving them the choice is important. And I do want to thank you again, Dean, Joe. I'm just looking at the comment. I guess Dean, is he your principal?
No, he's from Unlocking the Middle.
Unlock the Middle. Yeah, because I didn't know what Unlock the Middle was. He had said his name is Dean, so he just he said he was leaving. He said it's so hard to walk away from Joe's session. Thank you for having him on. He needs to be celebrated. So much to learn from. So yeah, so he said this was the best hour of his day. So thank you for Dean.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was reading that as I was speaking. So, but
we ask a lot as teachers.
So that wraps up the show tonight. I again want to thank Joe for being on. You are going to share your podcast and all of your resources in the show notes, right?
Yes.
And your blog. And maybe even if you can share that one particular blog post about the student poems that you were talking about, maybe you can add that in there as well.
Sure.
Just so people can, just so people can refer to it and, look for inspiration or ideas from that, that particular blog post. But anything that you can add in there that would be helpful that you mentioned today would be great. Because I know I'm going to go back and I've read the blog post. But if there's anything other than that you can add to it, I'd appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Joe. So what I'm going to do really quick is share my screen. And all right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, because last week I was sharing my screen, explained the whole thing, and I forgot to hit the button to project my screen. So it happens to all of us.
We've all done that.
Yep. All right. So if you would like to visit my website, you can visit thesweettalk.com. And on the homepage here, you can find the latest episode of the Sweet Talk and the podcast. I have a new book out that I wrote with Alice Keeler called Stepping Up to Google Classroom. It's available on Amazon. If anybody would like to support my mission to pay it forward, you can become a sponsor. You can fill out this form here and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Right now, I'm very thankful to have Slides Mania, Screencastify, Cami, and GAT Labs as a sponsor. If you'd like to be a guest on my show, you can fill out the guest inquiry form. Right now, I'm scheduling for March, April of next year. So there's a lot of people that want to pay it forward. So if you're one of those people, please fill out the form. One last thing, the Jamboard page. There's so many people using digital whiteboards now with remote learning. Jamboard is a digital whiteboard that you can use for collaboration. If you would like to look at my resources, you can check out this page here. My idea board for Jamboard is here. You can check it out. It's all accessible. If you are using Jamboard and you want to share an idea, you can fill out this form as well and help me pay it forward. I will showcase it in a presentation with other teachers that shared their jams with me. And one last thing, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. The Sweet Talk is on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. And that concludes the show. So I'm back. So thank you again, Joe. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, Kim.
It was great meeting you, and I'm so glad that you're part of my PLN.
If somewhere down the road, if you'd like to talk about your book, the book that you did with Alice Keeler, I have a person I met from NCTE, Janet Wong, who's a poet. And she sent me a copy of her book because I'm going to feature one of her poems on a spot of poetry. And then I said, if you want me to interview you and you can take it and use it however you wish. She said, oh, I would like that. I'll make you the same offer. I'll put it forward here.
All right.
All you have to do. I did that with Bruce and his crew.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. So
Sure.
let me end the broadcast and then we'll chat.
Sure.
All right. So until next week, I will see. Oh, and guess what, Joe? You are the last guest for the 2020 year.
Okay.
Can you believe that? We're ending on a high. See that? So, yes, next week I am not taking off. So far, we will have another episode as long as everything is well on both ends. So I will see everyone next week. Have a great evening. Happy New Year, everyone. Stay well. Bye.